I'm Mario. I'm a security researcher at Cantina, and I've been in security for a long time. I've been doing a lot of Web2 security stuff beforehand, and I've been in crypto for like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, whatever years. And one thing it's keep like repeating over the years, and the fact that in this world, or Web3 world, is the fact that we are still not ready yet to tackle the Web2 components of our Web3 world. Perfect. I want to say a bit about what does like Web2, Web3 means. People have like various terms. What I consider Web3 is basically smart contracts, blockchain infrastructure, everything that, let's say, has a trait of decentralization, right? You have a node run like by many parties, and that's kind of like of a decentralization, right? Smart contracts, which means basically code run on chain, which basically something that you cannot alter easily. What we consider Web2? Well, the cloud, basically every other component of a product, right? The cloud, front-end, back-end, wallet, even wallet, if they are not like something self-hosted or whatever, and even humans, right? Humans are some sort of like Web2 component. And the key trait of this is basically centralization. Like there is a way you can control, like an entity that can control all of this, and basically you rely on that entity. Cool. Wait, didn't work? Come on. Ah, okay, cool, worked. I want to talk a bit about the Web3 improvements over the years. So I've been in this field for a long time. I know exactly what was to actually, build or like do security back in the days in this Web3 world. I had no tools. I just had, Solidity in Solidity Remix. For those who remember Remix, Solidity IDE. We were in browser. You were writing some sort of like weird JavaScript at the beginning because that was like Solidity. Nowadays we got like way better. Like the field is so like it grew a lot, and it's understandable, right? So we have like more robust frameworks like Foundry, Soldier, Hardhat, VM, WAGMI, and all of the like testing environments like Tenderly and so on. We can actually use nowadays. We have actually a very strong security community. Like. We have like a lot of elite auditors, security reviewers, white hats nowadays. We have a lot of like security platforms from Cantina, Sherlock, Codehawk, C4, Immunify, and you name it, like many, many more. We actually have now a mature infrastructure platforms, right? Like from RPCs, like Alchemy, Furat, rollup as a services, indexing APIs. We don't have only one, and so on and so forth. We have basically safer smart contracts. Why? Because we have all of this tooling that enables us new techniques of testing and actually, let's say, guarding our smart contract after we code them. Don't forget that coding a smart contract is the first step, but what you do after that, testing, verifying, formal verifying, fuzzing, and so on and so forth, is like as important as writing the code itself. We have the mature API, EIPs, tooling, and so on. Like we have now safer multisigs, we have safer EIPs like ERC4626, which basically lets you build on top and maybe expand just a bit, but you can use them like out of the gate. And of course, tools like Dune, Nansen, which can like bring a lot of analytics to your stack. We have also a lot of Web2 improvements because this is what we want to talk about. I mean, over the years, of course, we have a lot of like, confidential computing, like enclaves and so on and so forth, better access control over like this cloud. You don't have just this weird console where you open a VPS. You can have like now lots of like ACL over the cloud. You can do a lot of stuff. Authentication, identity, it's widespread now. Like back in the days, we kind of like everyone built their own authentication. Now we kind of use these protocols which are like well known and they are well tested. We have also AI-powered threat detection nowadays. It's getting more and more popular with scans, a lot for threats and so on. We have a mature DevOps pipeline right now. Like we have a lot of tools that are like already established and people are using, so they are less prone to let's say doing like bugs that building and creating bugs that shouldn't happen. But unfortunately, it's not enough. Why it's not enough? Because if we look here at the report in 2023, we can see that is this pointer working? I'm not sure if it's working. Anyhow, you can see here that a private key compromise was actually around 900 million worth of assets stolen in 2023. Phishing, it's a small 200 there. Code vulnerability, it's kind of there. So people focus a lot on the code vulnerability, but we have a lot of these that are actually non-code vulnerability that create a lot of issues. 2024 looks even scarier, if you ask me. I mean, if you look at the phishing, I'm not sure if you can see it. You can see it, okay. The phishing chart, I mean, it's off the charts. It was the main, basically, attack vector that was running in the Web3 world, like phishing. A lot of phishing, a lot of funds lost to phishing, and a lot of adjacent attack vectors related to phishing happened in 2024. And I want now to go through some of them so I can highlight some of these problems and how they may seem harmless at first, but I want to showcase that Web3 is not yet fully ready to battle the Web2 attack vectors that happen in our world. So, for example, in 2023, Mexin, this was a simple, Web2 attack where basically hackers breached a database of the cloud service provider, which therefore managed to get access to Mexin's cloud services, and there probably they had the hot wallet key saved somewhere in where database or whatever, and basically the hackers stole around 200 million. We have multi-chain, which again it's centralized admin keys attack vector. This one is a weird one because even though it had 130 millions in losses, I think it's actually more, because multi-chain was kind of like the bridge for every token. Like every token that wanted to bridge used multi-chain, and they had a lot of high TVL tokens across many chains. I remember that that time a lot of like chains also suffered a lot because multi-chain there was the only bridge that basically could bridge in and out of their chain. And it was also weird then because the team wrote, I think on X or something, like, yeah, we cannot get a hold of our founder and he has all the keys. And we are like, okay, what? And I think for like a week, no one knew what happened, if I recall correctly, but feel free to fast check everything, of course. And I think after a week or something, founder's sister wrote on X saying that, yeah, it seems that Chinese government took my brother and that's it. And after some time, funds started to move, and no one knew what happened at that point. But basically, that also meant the end of multi-chain. But again, centralization, right? Come on. This is another one. It's an atomic wallet, which apparently it was a malware or infrastructure some sort breach, which managed to inject some sort of like I think JavaScript, and they managed to basically get the private keys of a lot of like people wallets, and from there, of course, they got a lot of funds out. You're gonna see the Lazarus. For those probably you already know that Lazarus Groups is one of our main threats in Web3, and this was claimed by Lazarus. Let's go to 2024. Bitcoin, DMM Bitcoin, 300 millions. Again, Lazarus Group seems to be the exploiter. They managed to, again, phishing malware, probably because they didn't, some of these, especially the Asian ones, don't disclose exactly what happened, and we are just guessing at this moment. And because Lazarus is kind of known for phishing and malware operations, probably that's how they managed also to get into DMM Bitcoin and still around 300 millions worth of Bitcoin. Was your ex from India? Again, this was. It's kind of like still some sort of like phishing malware infection, but this one wasn't like just a crypto, like they stole some keys and that was it. This was a bit more planned, because what they did, they basically spoofed the UI of the multisig that the founders were signing, and the founders were thinking, oh, yeah, we are signing this correct multisig. Apparently, they did not sign the correct transaction, and yeah, they tricked the multisig wallet to basically give the hackers the controls, and from there, everything goes as planned for the hackers, of course, extracting all the money. All of the previous attacks were, let's say, on centralized entities, right? I mean, all of this, like you've seen wallets, you've seen exchanges, and you can say, yeah, well, it's centralized. Of course, you have a lot of problems because being centralized, we live in a decentralized world, right? But I want to say, to talk a bit about the Radiant Capital, which basically it's a DeFi, so it's a decentralized, basically lives on blockchain. It has smart contracts, so it's a decentralized protocol, right? But this attack was also very interesting because it basically, the attackers managed to trick 3 out of 11 multisig signers to sign a malicious transaction. And they actually used a very advanced technique, if I may say, because they managed to kind of like spoof the transaction. So for those who do not know, when you sign a transaction in safe multisig, sometimes it fails, various reasons, nonce, I don't know, not enough gas, whatever. And they manage to actually trick the signers, because the signers were kind of, I mean, they know what they're doing. They simulated the transaction, everything looked good, but they simulated just the first transaction. The attackers made it fail, and then they had to reschedule the same transaction. They did not check again because, well, of course, I already checked it. And second time, they actually, the devices that send the request to the hardware wallet sent a different sign, basically thing to sign than what they saw previously. And that basically managed to, of course, the goal was to transfer ownership for the multisig, and from that, everything got bananas, of course. So yeah, very advanced technique. So you can see out to what lengths they go just for, to steal the funds. It's not just simple admin key leak or whatever. They actually go beyond just a simple attacks. And that's where we get to 2025, and probably everyone in this room knows about the Bybit hack, which is one of the most, I mean, is the highest one in TVL, but also like very sophisticated because let's go through. I took a bit of time to explain this one, because it's good to understand, like, even at like big companies that do a lot of let's say security audits and whatever, it's still a problem. Why? Because, well, the attackers go beyond just a simple phishing attack. So everything happened like on February 21st. I remember this message from Zach saying like, okay, it seems that we have an outflow of funds from Bybit. At first I was like, okay, maybe just a false alarm, false positive. Even though Zach kind of like never misses, he did not miss this one as well. So after this, basically everything went bananas, and for some days, no one knew exactly how the hackers managed to get the funds out of like so many funds. It's not like 100 millions or whatever. It's 1.4 billions. It's a crazy amount. So let's go through the phases. Well, it all started with, of course, Lazarus, which they first compromised. They ran a social engineering attack on a safe multisig developer. Bybit was using safe multisig for their multisig solutions. And they targeted a safe multisig developer. They used a Docker project name, whatever, to compromise the developer macOS workstation. You can search more exactly how they did it. They purchased a domain previously and they spoofed that domain. It's a bit more complicated, but just wrote here a bit, the highlight. After that, safe was not easy to break because again, it's not a small company. They had a lot of security and stuff. The attacker tried to go straight to the AWS. He couldn't actually because they had 2FAs, but he found a way by using like temporary session tokens to bypass the securities of the MFA and so on. He basically for 12 days he kept monitoring and tried to find a way into the AWS because it wasn't that easy. Again, Safe is not a company that doesn't know how to do security. But they didn't know how to do one thing, but I'm going to talk about that a bit later. After that, they managed to get into using those tokens, to get into the AWS S3 and inject a JavaScript code into the safe multisig. I mean, if you think about like macro, this could have been like this could basically mean end of Web3, if you can say, like having access to multisig and to save multisig frontend and doing something malicious. Think about like all the projects. I think almost all the projects in this space that are on the EVM are using a safe. Some of them are hosting their own multisig frontends, but most don't. So they managed to do that, but they're also clever because they knew that they couldn't try it on a small project. They had to go big or go home because they knew they will get coked after the first attempt. So they designated a special transaction that targeted Bybit. Probably they looked at the most, at the most used whatever protocol that they could drain out of. And apparently Bybit was their target. So they created the special JavaScript that targeted just Bybit transactions. The other safe wallets weren't affected because they didn't want to try multiple times. Now, of course, February 21st, Bybit was like, okay, everything is good, nothing, and we just do a cold wallet rotation, and that's, of course, when everything happened. The attack entered into the play, and they basically introduced some methods that basically swept everything from the multisig, and from there, everything went, of course, money laundering and so on and so forth. So yeah, Bybit had no idea like that could happen because their probably internal policies were like super strict about this, but they missed one thing, which was they did not expect that Safe would actually get hacked and that they would get targeted. Come on. Now, what can we do? Well, it's kind of like there is no easy way for to strengthen the Web2 part of the Web3 than just work towards better policies, better security policies on your product. People focused a lot on Web3 policies and how you have audits, you have bug bounties, and so on. But Web2 is still a work in progress, and I've seen the request of many. After Bybit, of course, many of our clients started to look into how can we protect also the Web2 part. And there are like some points here. Use, of course, hardware wallets, never expose private keys, do a lot of phishing campaigns where you train your employees on like phishing, how to respond to phishing, how to see if it's a phishing or not. you need to secure, of course, your web infrastructure, like locking the DNS, cloud configs, 2FAs everywhere. Most important is actually adopt zero trust principle, like question everything, never think that something is safe, neither dependencies, browser extension, everything can be compromised. And the last point, of course, it's hire professionals. It's very important to hire someone who can think as a bad guy. And I think that's it. And my time is over.
Perfect timing, Mario. Thank you so much. And thank you for reminding us that legacy bugs are in the system still. I know these phishing ones. I have so many people coming into Telegram like, my wallet got drained. So how do you respond when somebody comes in and says, like, my wallet just been drained because they clicked the link, they exchanged the wrong token, all these things?
Well, there is not an easy response here. Well, at first I try to calm that. I mean, one thing that you have to deal with when you deal with such situation is it's emotions. Like there are a lot of emotions, and it's first important to contain the attack. Maybe he has multiple wallets. Maybe on his machine he's using multiple things. And first is to try to calm the victim and try to find the root cause and contain further losses. And then, fortunately, you have to go to law enforcement and work from there up. But unfortunately, being blockchain is very hard nowadays. There were some successful campaigns, and some of these hackers, exploiters, phishers have been caught, but it's very, very hard. But yeah, the first thing is just to calm the victim and try to find the root cause. Nothing you can do at that point. And maybe recover if possible, but 90% of the cases it's impossible.
That's like the least I ever hear somebody getting funds back after getting a wallet drain. Especially, and the Bybit one, I remember that one because I was sitting online and I just saw the chart start hitting the floor. It's like, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to ask, do we have any questions from the audience sitting here today? Now is your time to actually ask about security and everything and pick his brain. There we go.
Thank you. I meant to ask, why do you think these kind of devastating attacks just happen in Web3, especially the Bybit one? As you described, it was basically they managed to infect this dependency that the Bybit in this case was using. So I can imagine the same scenario for a bank. A bank is certainly built on some dependency, be it operating system or just NPM packages, or why is it not present there?
Well, there is one thing I can tell you is that Web3 evolved a lot through the years, and it grew so fast that we don't have a lot of policies, if I may say, like in place. And a lot of the founders and product people in our space adopt the fact that they want to be a corporation, they don't want processes, they want to build as a startup, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, you cannot build a bank as a startup. First, you have to go through a lot of regulations, a lot of things. In our world, unfortunately, no, and we are linked directly to the money. So it's easier for the attackers to attack us than a bank, because a bank has 10,000. I mean, I've seen banks with shitty security, but most of them are like enclosed, and you cannot actually access their system, and way more complicated to get into a bank system than. Plus, they have a lot of regulations that have to pass, and those means a lot of like testing and security reviews and so on and so forth. While on our, unfortunately, world we are still not there, and so that's why we are targeted, because we are easy targets, unfortunately.
So it's because, like, you're saying lack of resources and preparation and proper processes.
Yeah, exactly. All of these are because that's how this world was built at first. Being scrappy and trying to do stuff, and unfortunately, we did not have time to also be mature on the tooling and processes part. We are getting better, but we are still at early stages. That's why. And if you look back in the when the banks, if I may say, were like early stages, you see a lot of problems there as well. But banks are how many? 40 years, whatever. So they had time to prepare.
But they could roll back.
And that's another thing. They could roll back. But a bank can always scrap from a database. Here we can't.
Thank you so much.